This film is amazing.
Oh,
It definitely
thank you.
had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. I thought I had it down. I was like, oh, this is going to be one of those thrillers, very predictable. And then towards the end, I was like, okay, I was a little too hasty on that.
Fantastic.
What did the inspiration stem from to even start writing Detour and come up with the idea?
I came up with the idea in 2007. It was around about the time that the Disturbia had just been in the cinema, and an exec said, I'd really love to do something like Strangers on a Train, trying to think up an idea like that for a sort of little Hitchcockian thriller. And I think because I just finished writing Triangle, my brain was so structural in terms of that crazy process of writing Triangle that I suddenly had the idea of what if we split the narrative, and it feels as though we've split the narrative on the decision to kill or not to kill. So, and then I worked out how to bring the two stories back together again. And then I had this sort of structure, but without the characters or the story. So I then set about trying to write it. So I made about 3 films afterwards. And then when I finally focused on it, I got it down and I enjoyed it, yeah. And I think what you're saying is that what you find at the end is the story takes you in many different directions and the characters are not what they seem. And it has more of it has almost a spiritual quality at the end. It's a strange little kind of, you realise that this kid is screwed. Mm-hmm. He's screwed, you know, and I think that's what's nice about it, yeah.
Back in Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. With a load of money and a pretty girl.
Oh, that's true. Was it ever your original intention for Harper to become the antagonist in a sense? Because that's the idea I was getting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd say now when I was Emery Cohen ends up the good guy. You know, he stops being the antagonist. Yes, it was. It was the idea that once you cross that path and you make that mistake, every step you take that doubles down on that mistake eventually leads you to a place where you become, I wouldn't say the bad guy. I mean, I joke that he is. At the end of the movie, he's got to Mexico, or maybe he's escaped her, but you realise that he's never going to escape, and that I think that's the key. I just love movies that makes you feel like the story is continuing after the film has ended.
Those are the best.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Then you go home and you're sitting in the car with friends talking about it, or even with family after, and you're sitting there and contemplating everything and analyzing it, and that's when you know you made a good film, because you want people to talk about it and have to ask questions.
You know, and I sort of feel like at the end you say, you know, I think the execs were saying, are they going to kiss? Are they going to get together? I'm like, no, they're not going to kiss. They're sort of together, but only they've escaped together, but they're not together. Maybe they will be in the future, but they're not now. Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll just imagine it for ourselves, right? And even seeing Cherry and Johnny Ray's relationship, I thought it was interesting how on his side, he was totally in love with her, but never showed it. So she thought that, you know, he just doesn't care for me. And then she was only with him out of obligation. Yeah. What kind of, I guess what I'm asking is, how did you come up with that complexity and with the relationship? Is that based off of just normal life relationships, how people can have like different views on how something's going? Yeah,
I think that Emery picked up very early on that there was this couple were almost in a breakup. I think that they're both trapped. I think she's not just she got with him when she was very young, and she wants to leave him, and she can't leave him because he's not going to let her leave him. And you think that he's just this horrible bully, and then you realise that actually there's more to it than that, and actually he loves her deeply but can't tell her the truth. Because so it's just about that complexity. I mean, I've always been interested. Me and my wife discussed this in the whole process of, you know, breakups, and like we broke up. Me and my wife, we've been together for like forever, but we had a breakup after about 5 years, and in that moment for about a year, you both it's a strange thing. It's a strange trauma, but it's not the breakup that's difficult. Actually, there's a period before which I call the departure lounge, which is the area when eventually it's gonna happen. And I think that's where we find this couple. Johnny Ray is in the departure lounge. You know, he's being got rid of, and he senses that, and he's finding it. He's turning to aggression to try and control her. And at the end, I really feel sorry for him. You know, he gets a choice: call a lawyer or call her, and he chooses to call her. And I feel for him. I feel like it's a love story, and at the end she's run off to Mexico, and I feel for him.
They're all really tragic characters, just completely lost.
No. Well, I'm really glad that you responded to it, because I really feel like it is, like you say, a young love. It's really worked. We've been to festivals, and it's a young audience really respond to the kind of the black and white, but you think the black and white feelings, your emotions are so much higher when you're younger. Everything's you're madly in love. You're not in love. You're gonna kill someone when actually a punch will do. Everything's all the emotions are so much more, and it doesn't hopefully we don't insult that. We don't rely on that. But what we do is at the end you go, actually, these do feel like young emotions that you're seeing played out, but actually at the end they're not. They're emotions that you'll have for the rest of your life, and they're all very mature by the end of the movie. The three characters.
Definitely, we see. I feel like Harper though is mature in a negative way rather than positively. You mentioned how when you're young you have all these heightened emotions. Did that lead you to want to cast younger actors in your film?
Yeah, it happened. It seems as though it was always planned, that it wasn't. I always. Bizarrely, when I sat there and I actually thought about casting, you suddenly realise, well, he's at college, he's at law school, so let's face it, he's got to be 18 to 21. He could be a postgrad, but we're trying to think of who we can cast in the movie. So the oldest maybe would be about 23, 24. But really, when I thought about Ty at 18, actually, I love that actor. Having him younger is better. And so with Belle and Johnny Ray, I always thought Johnny Ray would be 30 and maybe Belle would be 25. And it didn't turn out that way, and I'm really glad it didn't, because actually, in hindsight, having it as a young story for young, there's very few movies where the three characters are all, under 25. So I'm really happy that I'm not going to take full credit that it was all planning. It became a planning once we started the casting process, but it wasn't in my head when I wrote it that way.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, and it's definitely. I guess in a sense relatable and cool to see a thriller with people more like even closer to my age, and because it is, how you said, usually like older, 25, 30.
Well, you'd have maybe 10 years ago before, you'd have a kind of, maybe 15 years ago, Matthew McConaughey playing Johnny Ray would be your studio way. He covered in tattoos when he was maybe 15 years younger. And the girl's 26, 27, and they're all. But then it's about these older people, so that means that he owns the little girl who he's seeing. He becomes a pimp rather than a hustler, which he is now. At the moment, they're just little wretches. The two of them are just, And you really realise how young they are when you see them with Frank. He's a little boy. When you see him next to a real man, you go, here's John Lynch, and he's just going to scare the shit out of you. Yeah, so no, I'm really pleased. It's turned out good. So.
And that relationship with Johnny Ray and Frank, was that more, because I did remember Emery said something in a past interview about he kind of set up this father-son relationship in his head. Yeah. Is that the angle that you were going for, or something you added to after Emery came to you?
Yeah, no, Emery is just a great actor, and great actors have not just great instincts on the screen in the moment they're acting, but they have great instincts of how they can get to where they want to be. And so he obviously read the script in just with his character in mind, and he said, the way I am with Frank, it's kind of odd. It's like, why is he obsessed with the girl? Why is he treating me like this? Why didn't he just kill me? Why has he kept me alive? Maybe he's like my dad or something, or he's my uncle, or in my head. It doesn't have to be part of the story. And I said to him on day one, I think you're right. I think it's great to think of it that way, because it's weird, Frank. He acts like he gives her his number. He's like, he's faulty. He's completely faulty. And so, for Emery to get there, I thought it was important. And I think it's scary when you realise the guy you think is scary, the bad guy, is absolutely nothing. He's not a bad guy. There's always someone meaner up the chain than you.
Definitely. And I have to give a little bit of kudos. I did not even recognize that you guys shot in Cape Town until I recognized the hotel that they stayed at.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I actually stayed at that same hotel when I visited Cape Town. Yeah.
How funny.
I like sent a photo to my friend, and I was like, "Look at this."
In Vegas.
Yeah, the
wow.
Cullinan.
God, that's really clever. Yeah, the Cullinan.
Yeah.
Oh, it was called the Cullinan. We left it
Yeah.
as the Cullinan. That's right.
So it was
Funny,
hilarious. I was like, this looks really familiar. And then all of a sudden it went from the shot talking to the front desk to the shot of the back. And I was like, wait, I walked up those steps. Like, what's going on? So that was, I mean, you guys did a great job at even covering up and making it look like Vegas and California roads.
No, we did. I'm not going to take full credit. We also shot in LA, and we did 2 days in LA and 3 days in Vegas. So it's we did the bulk of it. We did 6 weeks in South Africa, and I think we did 1 day in LA, or 1.5 days in LA and 1.5 days in Vegas. So they go to Vegas, but then when they're in Vegas, they're not in Vegas.
Impressed. I was like, whoa.
Oh yeah, no.
Vegas.
Yeah, you can't fake Vegas.
No.
Yeah, so yeah.
That's okay. Now, I mean, I'm still impressed,
Okay,
but that
good.
makes a lot more sense now because I was blown away completely.
Okay, good.
And then I did speak to you earlier just regarding Cape Town. Was it your first time there? What was it like just being amidst such a beautiful place?
No, it wasn't my first time there. I made a big TV series there. I will always try and find a way to film in Cape Town. I'll try and, if I'm making a movie that's set in London, I was working on this thing where it's all set in a hospital, I'm going to film it in South Africa. I love the place, I love the people, I love Cape Town, and it's good value for money, and I just really love that country. It's really hard to explain. It really, like I think you were saying before, it really gets in your soul. And anyone that goes there, you remember. Yeah, the cast are lining up to go there, and I'd rather you say, you want to come to Cape Town, or do you want to film this in a small town in the middle of the desert in LA? I'd rather be in Cape Town. So.
Oh, that's so cool. I love to hear that, and even just I love meeting other people who have traveled to South Africa. It's definitely. You develop like a connection with people. Well, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Of course.
Lovely
It's
to
great
meet
talking to
you.
you.
Take care.